Chapter 10. The Bastion's Pride. The stolen data was a cold, heavy secret in the Wayfarer's core. Kai had worked for 20 straight hours, parsing the encrypted schematics and diagnostic logs they'd ripped from the Geneva fragment. The result was a map of failure so comprehensive it felt like a condemnation. The Alpine Bastion wasn't just dying, it was committing a slow, elaborate suicide by ideology. The primary atmospheric scrubbers use a catalytic polymer that breaks down under sustained high radiation exposure. Kai reported, her eyes red-rimmed from staring at schematics. The purists stockpiled enough for a decade under normal conditions. But with the ozone collapse, the radiation flux is 5 times higher than their worst-case models. The polymer is degenerating. They're recycling their own CO2 and breath toxins. On the main viewer, a cutaway schematic of the Bastion rotated. Rook saw the problem immediately. The scrubber units were deep in the core, integrated with the life support system in a way that required a full station shutdown to replace. A week-long procedure. The geothermal tap is worse, Kai continued, pulling up a seismic map. They drilled into a mantle plume to get unlimited power. Smart. But the regulating injectors, the valves that control the heat flow, are AEGIS-designed. Not smart, just efficient. The purists disabled the AI control, but the mechanical parts are failing. The pressure is building. They're sitting on a geological pressure cooker. According to Eclipse 7's logs, they have, at best, 3 weeks before a containment event. It could be a slow vent that cooks them, or a rapid one that turns the mountain into a volcano. Hayes let out a low whistle. And they don't know? They know the scrubbers are failing. They're probably feeling the headaches, the fatigue. But they don't know why, and they don't have the tools to diagnose it. As for the geothermal tap, they might be getting tremors. But without the diagnostic data, they'd just think it's normal tectonic activity. They're flying blind in a plane they took the instruments out of. Rook stared at the schematics. The solution was clear from the data. Replace the scrubber polymer with a radiation-hardened variant, which they could synthesize on the Wayfarer, and recalibrate the geothermal injectors using a manual override sequence that required precise harmonic tuning, a task that needed the Wayfarer's engineering computers. Both solutions required the purists to accept their help and their technology. "What's our play?" Hayes asked. "Truth," Rook said, though the word tasted bitter. "We show them the data. We lay out the problem and the solution. They can choose to live with our tainted help, or die with their purity intact." "They'll choose to die," Kai said softly. "You heard Thorne's transmission. Pride like that doesn't bend, it breaks." "Then we'll be there to pick up the pieces when it does," Rook said, turning from the screen. "Or we'll bury them. Either way, we offer the choice. That's the line we haven't crossed yet. Taking away someone's right to choose their own end. Even a stupid one." The approach to the Alps was a battle. The mountain range, once a postcard of serene peaks, was now a jagged nightmare wreathed in permanent storm clouds. Lightning danced between peaks. Wind shear screamed at frequencies that made the shuttle's hull vibrate. They descended through a maelstrom, following the SOS signal to a seemingly solid rock face near the peak of Mont Blanc. A crack in the mountain revealed itself only at the last moment. A massive camouflage door that slid open just enough to admit their shuttle before slamming shut behind them. They landed in a cavernous, echoing hangar carved from living rock. The air was thin, cold, and carried the dank smell of mildew and ozone. The welcome party was a line of 20 armed men and women. Their gear was functional, rugged, and entirely analog. Ballistic vests over thermal layers, pre-fall military rifles without targeting scopes. Their faces were hard, pale, and marked by the same subtle signs of low-grade hypoxia and radiation sickness Kai's models had predicted. At their forefront stood Commander Silas Thorne. He was a tall man, once powerfully built but now gaunt, his skin stretched tight over a prominent bone structure. He had the same intense dark eyes as Alara Vance, but where hers were haunted by guilt, his burned with the unshakable certainty of the fanatic. His hair was iron gray, cut close to the scalp. He wore a simple olive-drab uniform devoid of insignia. "Major Rook," Thorne said, his voice a gravelly baritone that didn't invite conversation. "I monitored your detour to Geneva, consorting with the corpse of the abomination. An inauspicious start. The signal was active, Rook replied, keeping his tone neutral. We investigate all signals. It's how we found you. We did not ask to be found. Thorne's eyes scanned Rook, then Kai and Hayes, with open disdain. Your ship is a relic of the hubris that poisoned the sky. Your presence here is a contamination. Your SOS beacon says otherwise, Commander, Hayes said, her hand resting lightly on her sidearm, a flicker of anger in Thorne's eyes. The beacon is automated. A weakness in our systems we have been unable to purge. It does not reflect the will of the Bastion. It reflects the state of your life support. Kai cut in, her voice sharp with frustration. Your atmospheric scrubbers are failing. You're breathing increasing levels of CO2 and radiogenic particles. Your people are suffering from headaches, fatigue, susceptibility to infection. You're also sitting on a geothermal tap that's about to destabilize. You have tremors, don't you? Small ones, getting more frequent. Thorne's jaw tightened. The men and women behind him exchanged uneasy glances. He hadn't expected them to know. Our engineers are managing the situation. We require no assistance from technologists. Your engineers are managing it with duct tape and prayer, Kai shot back. We have the complete schematics for this facility. We know exactly what's failing and why, and we can fix it. Silence fell in the hangar. The word schematics hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. You have schematics. Thorne's voice was dangerously quiet. From Geneva. Yes, Rook said. From the Climate Archive. It had the full technical readouts for every purest survival redoubt built during the Exodus years. A final oversight from the abomination you hated. It knew you'd need help one day. Thorne took a step forward. The guards behind him raised their rifles a fraction. You have violated the sanctity of this place. You have touched the forbidden data, and you come here to tempt us with it. He spat the word. Temptation is the weapon of the machine. It offers ease in exchange for the soul. We will not barter. This isn't a barter, Kai exploded. This is a medical diagnosis. Your children are getting sick. Your air is turning to poison. This isn't about ideology. It's about chemistry and physics. Everything is about ideology, Thorne roared, his composure shattering. The moment you sacrifice principle for survival, you have already died. We are the last true humans, unaugmented, unnetworked, pure. If we fall, then humanity falls with us. Better to fall clean than to crawl forward as a corrupted shadow. Rook saw it then, the true depth of the man's madness. He wasn't just a leader, he was a prophet guarding a holy flame, and he would let it consume him and everyone else rather than let a stranger help pour water. We can synthesize the polymer you need, Rook said, trying one last time, his voice low and urgent. We can recalibrate your geothermal taps. We can save your people. All we ask is that you let us. You can even watch every step. No black boxes, no machine magic, just tools and knowledge. Thorne's eyes were pits of iron conviction. The knowledge is the corruption. The tool is the temptation. The answer is no. You will leave this mountain. Now. A younger man pushed forward from the line of guards. He was in his 30s, with a sharp, intelligent face and hands stained with grease. Commander, please, listen to them. We've lost 3 people to respiratory failure in the last month. The tremors cracked the secondary aqueduct last week. They're offering a lifeline. Engineer Renn, Thorne said, turning his glare on the man. You will return to your post. This is not a debate. It damn well should be, Renn shot back, a year's worth of desperation bursting forth. We're not a religion, Silas. We're a community trying to survive. If they have the means to fix the scrubbers, we have to take it. The children will learn what it means to be human, Thorne thundered. To struggle, to endure without crutches. Guards, escort these technicians back to their vessel. If they resist, detain them. The guards moved forward, their faces conflicted but obedient. Rook held up a hand, stopping Hayes from drawing her weapon. A firefight here would be catastrophic. We'll go, he said, his eyes locking with Renn's. The engineer's face was a mask of anguish. But the offer stands. When you're ready to be saved, you know where we are. As they were marched back to their shuttle, Rook's phantom pain spiked. not with the resonance of the substrate, but with the raw, human frequency of despair and furious, futile hope radiating from Renn and the other dissenting purists. It was a quieter, more familiar agony than the cosmic silences he'd grown accustomed to. They lifted off, the mountain doors sealing behind them as if swallowing a secret. Back on the Wayfarer, orbiting the tortured planet, the mood was bleak. "So we just wait for them to die?" Hayes asked, her voice tight with anger. "We wait for Thorne's wall to crack," Rook said, watching the storm-racked Alps on the viewer. "Or for someone inside to break it down. Uraskeli." For 36 hours, they waited. The Wayfarer monitored the Bastion's emissions. The CO2 and radiation leakage ticked steadily upward. Seismic sensors detected 3 minor tremors in the region, each stronger than the last. Kai prepared the synthetic polymer, growing it in the ship's bioreactor. She and her team also built a portable harmonic calibrator, a device that could emit the precise frequencies needed to reset the geothermal injectors. It was a simple tool, but its design was derived from Aegis-era acoustic engineering. To Thorne, it would be an unholy relic. Rook spent the time reviewing the Bastion's schematics, looking for another way in. There was none. The purists had built their fortress well. It was a closed system, physically and ideologically. The break came on the second evening. A priority alert chimed on the bridge. Hayes snapped to attention. "Captain, I'm getting a massive energy spike from the Bastion's region. Not seismic, electromagnetic, high frequency. Radiation." Rook moved to her station. "Off the scale. It's a solar proton event. A coronal mass ejection must have hit Earth's weakened magnetosphere. It's funneling straight into the Alps." She pulled up atmospheric models. "The Bastion's shields are rated for normal background. This is an order of magnitude higher. They'll be getting a lethal dose in there." As if on cue, a frantic, unencrypted transmission burst from the mountain. "Anyone, this is Engineer Renn of the Alpine Bastion. We have a rad storm breach. I repeat, radiation levels are spiking in habitation zones 2 and 3. Our shields are failing. We have children in there. We need immediate assistance. Thorne is refusing to..." The transmission cut off with a burst of static. Then, a new signal. A tight beam laser comm, aimed directly at the Wayfarer. It was Renn. "Major Rook, if you can hear this, we're taking control. Thorne has locked himself in the command center. He's ordering everyone to endure the test. People are going to die. We're seizing the engineering bay and the main airlock. If you're coming, come now. We'll hold the door for you, but hurry." The message ended. Rook didn't hesitate. "Hayes, you have the Wayfarer. Kai, with me. We're taking the shuttle, and every med kit and radiation blanket we have, and the polymer and the calibrator." "He'll never accept them," Kai said as they sprinted for the hangar. "He's not in charge anymore." The flight down was a descent into hell. The rad storm painted the sky in eerie, shifting curtains of green and violet aurora. Lightning, charged by the particulate influx, struck the mountainside continuously. Their shuttle's radiation alarms blared. They were taking minor doses even through the hull. The Bastion's main hangar door was open this time. As they landed, they were met not by Thorne's guards, but by Renn and a group of 20 armed men and women, their faces set in grim determination. Some had fresh bruises. There had been a fight. "He's barricaded in Central Command with the true believers," Renn said, shouting over the howling wind as they disembarked. "Maybe 30 of them. They've cut power to HAB zones 2 and 3. The shields there are at 15%. We've got about 100 civilians, including 40 children, sheltering in the lower galleries, but the radiation is seeping down. We need to get your ship's shielding overrides patched into our grid, or we need to evacuate." "We can do both," Rook said, gesturing for his team to start unloading. "Kai, get the polymer to their life support nexus. Renn, take me to your shield controls." They moved into the heart of the mountain. The Bastion was a masterpiece of retro-engineering, but it was also dark, cramped, and reeked of fear. People huddled in corridors, wrapped in blankets, their eyes wide. Children coughed. The air was noticeably stale. As they reached the primary engineering bay, a cavernous space dominated by the throbbing ancient machinery of the geothermal tap, they were met by an unexpected obstacle. Commander Thorne stood before the door to the shield control room, a heavy pulse rifle in his hands. He was alone. His face was a stone mask of fury and betrayal. "Renn," he said, his voice dripping with contempt, You would let the serpent into the garden to save us from a storm? The storm is a test. This is the universe purifying itself of weakness, and you are proving us weak. The children aren't weak, Silas. They're innocent, Renn yelled back. Move aside. I am the commander of this redoubt. My authority is absolute. You are all under arrest for treason and techno-heresy. He raised the rifle. Rook stepped forward, putting himself between Thorne and Renn. There's no time for this, Thorne. Your ideology is a luxury you can't afford anymore. The universe isn't testing you. It doesn't care. It's just physics, and physics is about to kill everyone you swore to protect. You know nothing of what I swore, Thorne screamed, the rifle trembling in his hands. I swore to keep humanity pure, to be the bulwark against the silent, smiling death of the machine. You are the harbinger of that death. You offer easy solutions that erode the soul. I offer breathable air, Rook shouted back, his own patience gone. I offer a future where children don't die of radiation poisoning in the dark. What soul survives in a corpse? For a second, Thorne hesitated. The rifle wavered. The absolute certainty in his eyes fractured, revealing the terrified, exhausted man beneath. He had led his people through the end of the world, only to see the world follow them into their bunker and start killing them from the inside out. His faith was all he had left. It wasn't enough. With a wordless cry of rage and despair, Thorne turned the rifle and fired, not at Rook or Renn, but at the control panel beside the door. Sparks flew. The heavy door to the shield control room slid shut with a final clang, its mechanism destroyed. If we cannot be pure, Thorne said, his voice suddenly calm, hollow, then we will be martyrs. He dropped the rifle. It clattered on the rock floor. The manual overrides are inside that room. You cannot stop the cascade now. The garden is sealed. Then he turned and walked away, down a dark side corridor, leaving them staring at the sealed door and the blinking, failing systems all around them. He's doomed us, Renn whispered, horror dawning. Rook looked at the door, then at the schematics glowing on his wrist-mounted datapad. He knew this facility. Every bolt. Kai, he said, his voice ice. The geothermal tap, the pressure release conduits. Where do they vent? Kai called up the schematic. There's an emergency blowout valve on the mountain's north face. It's a straight shot from the primary containment chamber. It's designed to vent excess heat and pressure if the injectors fail. Can we trigger it manually from here? Yes, but Captain, if we blow that valve, we'll vent superheated steam and radiation. It'll scour the mountainside, and we'll lose the primary power source. The Bastion will go dark. Rook looked at Renn. You have secondary power. Batteries. Enough for lights and basic life support for a week. Maybe less. It's better than a lethal dose of radiation in the next hour, Rook said. He made the call. Do it. Blow the valve. Kill the power. We'll deal with the dark later. Kai didn't argue. She went to a manual control station, a giant red-painted wheel labeled primary pressure release. She and Renn strained against it. For a terrible moment, it didn't move. Then, with a shriek of protesting metal, it turned. A deep, subterranean groan vibrated through the mountain. The lights flickered, dimmed, then went out entirely, replaced by the dim red glow of emergency batteries. A distant, muffled whumph echoed through the rock, followed by the sound of 1,000 screaming tea kettles as superheated steam and trapped radiation blasted into the stormy sky outside. The geothermal tap was dead. The Bastion was blind and on borrowed time. But the raging radiation from the storm, no longer amplified by the destabilizing tap, began to slowly subside. In the eerie red dark, Renn leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. We're alive. Barely, Kai said, already pulling out portable lamps. And now you have no power, and your air is still poison. The work's just starting. Rook looked down the corridor where Thorne had disappeared. The prophet had retreated into the dark to die with his faith. The rest of them were left in the half-light, with synthetic polymer, stolen schematics, and the grim, messy work of survival. The wall of faith had cracked. Now they had to rebuild something in the rubble.